The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
I'm choosing to ignore the cuts and bumps and bruises. I'm cruising through these haters, leave them looking stupid. They foolish if they think they'll ever hear my conclusion. I'm through with all these Mardonas and their excuses. I'm bruising eagles left and right every time I do this. I'm shooting for the top, no I'll never settle where you did. The future's in my hands, my grip will never lose it. My crew is ready to obtain the absolution, removing any doubt that we was ever fooling. Come on, step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, follow us to the new revolution. Come on, step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, follow us to the new revolution.
Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
Happy Wednesday. We are now live on Toking with, and as always, we have Benjamin.
Yo, how's everybody doing?
Doing okay. Was my volume low for a second?
Yeah, you were kind of like, I thought maybe your wife came in and was like choking you out from behind or something. I was like,
no, he was eating cake.
Is that what?
Yeah.
He was eating cake.
Yeah. Jeffrey.
Hey,
more like
what's happening out there?
Coffee. That's what I was doing.
It's coffee. Okay, I have coffee. See, coffee.
Oh, what's in the coffee?
Kahlua.
Would you like to introduce our awesome guest tonight, Jeffrey?
Only if he'll let me butcher his name. I'm going to try not to.
You better not. You got instructions before the show.
Yeah, like 4 minutes ago.
Well, I have a memory like an elephant. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
Ooh, good one. That was a good one.
You like that, huh?
I'm almost half impressed with you.
Yeah, it's Gary Van Scyoc. Is that right?
Scyoc.
Damn it! I knew I was going to get it wrong.
and you know what? I knew you would too.
Welcome to the show, Gary. You are
Thank you guys.
wonder.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh my! He butchered it. He's fired. Fired.
I am not offended.
No, me neither.
Thank
It's
God.
tough, It's a tough one.
So, Gary, for those who may not know who you are, would you like to introduce everybody to yourself?
Gary Van Scyoc, Elephant's Memory Band, since 1971. Still doing it. Still playing out. Still recording. And love the music business. Been around for over 50 years. So doing okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, that's excellent.
1971. I'm going to have to ask my mom if they were listening to one of the albums when, never mind. Because I was born in 72, I'm just saying.
Well, I
Oh,
was
you just
8,
missed
so I was 8, so I was still eating mud pies.
You guys are a bunch of whoopies.
Well, I think that's where the whoopie pie comes from, is the original mud pie.
Right?
I seriously do.
Did he say whoopee or Wookie?
No, whoopee. You know, like what people say after sex, whoopee.
I don't remember.
And we have derailed literally
Yeah.
8 minutes in, Leo. Is that a record?
Totally.
Nice.
So, we had a question in from Jeremy. Gary, he wants to know, how's the music business been during the pandemic?
What music business?
Yeah.
I haven't played since last February, 2020. It's the longest time I've ever gone for not having a gig. It's just really strange, you know. I used to get depressed when I didn't have a gig in 2 weeks. So now it's been like over a year. It's unbelievable. This is new territory for me. I'm not used to this stuff.
Right.
Did you look into or try to do like online live type of performances, or just not up your alley?
Doesn't interest me in the least. I teach for a living as well. That went down the tubes, and so all of my students have been AWOL for over a year now as well. So
Wow,
it's pretty strange.
And all your students, I hope you are still practicing, because when you get back at it, he's going to expect a hell of a lot more from you. You've had a year to do it.
I don't push the practice thing too much. You know, if a person wants it and they have the talent, it just kind of happens with some good directions. The way I look at it, you can practice the wrong stuff for weeks. You know?
Well, that's true.
Absolutely no good. You know,
That's true.
That's true. Yep.
ran across that. That's why I didn't want to become an institutional teacher, like a band director or anything like that. Nothing against those guys. I have a lot of friends that did it and had great careers, and they're not eating dog food now like me. But it's.
I recommend Gravy Train.
Yeah. Not a lot of retirement.
Right, Leo? Right?
How do you even know that?
I don't know what he's doing down
Don't
there.
ask. Don't ask. My generation was a lot of dares.
So, back to the show.
Yes,
It's this amazing guest that we have. For some of you, or all of you that are watching right now, Gary is, I would say, a legendary bassist.
I was going to say icon.
Well, he's definitely an icon, a legendary icon, but he's a legendary bassist as well, playing with some of the biggest names that you can think of in music history. We'll get more into that after. Why am I on full screen? This isn't about me.
Because
you were talking.
Background, Ben.
Maybe that's what it is. He's hoping that I get sucked into the vortex.
It looks like a Lady Gaga hairdo, actually.
It is. You like it?
Yeah.
But anyways, Gary, what got you into playing bass? Well, let me rephrase that. What got you into music?
Being from Pittsburgh got me into music because soul music was so big then and so predominant on the airwaves. It was hard to resist that soul stuff, and the Motown and all that stuff. It's kind of a R&B town, Pittsburgh, so that's where I was from, and a little town outside of Pittsburgh. But I had a local band in college that had a hit record in Pittsburgh, a band called the Dynatones. It was a hit record called The Fife Piper, and made it, I think it was 49 in Cashbox and Billboard, 1966.
Wow.
So I had a good I was only 19, so I got a real dose of the music business at very, very young, and which inspired me to come to New York.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leo.
Well, no, I being the dork that I am. So the Fife Piper, you were signed at that time with Hanna-Barbera Records.
Correct. Yeah, it was just a fluke. We recorded the record at a fabulous studio in Pittsburgh, very famous. Did all the oldies records there, called Gateway Sound. And just coincidentally, when we were mixing the final track for the Fife Piper, the manager of the famous doo-wop band, the Marcells, happened to be standing outside, and he loved it, and somehow got in. Had probably an in those days. It was all politics or whatever in '66, and he had a way to get into Hanna-Barbera Records, sent it out there to Hollywood, and they loved it and signed us, and it was like the easiest transition from being a college fraternity band into being a serious national act.
Okay, now wait a minute. I got a question here.
Almost overnight.
Hanna-Barbera Records? I thought they did cartoons.
You did.
I
sorry?
never heard of the record label.
Hanna-Barbera?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a really hip jazz label in the 60s, you know. It wasn't just all the Jetsons and, you know, all that, those cartoon stuff. They actually were serious about having a label in the 60s. It lasted for 5 or 6, 7 years, and they had a lot of really cool stuff on it. So I'm proud to be on that stable.
That's
of
awesome.
musicians.
Well, I did not know that.
No,
That's-
I didn't know it either. And Leo being the dork that he is, found it.
That's
You guys aren't old
impressive.
enough to know it.
So, did any of was there music made specifically for, like, did any of it mix with like the cartoons, or because I know
Some
a lot
of my
records-
stuff made it into the Jetsons. Yeah,
Very cool.
they used a lot of the stuff. I can talk about it now, but mixed in with the record was, you've heard of the Wrecking Crew, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the tracks that were on the album under my name were actually musicians had overdubbed and played tracks from the Wrecking Crew out in LA. So we didn't quite have enough material because they want you to come up with an album in 24 hours, you know, and you can't possibly write all that material, you know, so you just work on a single. So they had to fill in to get a whole album's worth of material, so they came up with some tracks that I later learned it was the guys from the Wrecking Crew, which is so cool.
That is cool. Wow. Jeff looks
It
like
wasn't cool at the
dumbfounded.
time.
Oh yeah. No, I'm totally
Because
dumbfounded.
I was insulted that they did it behind our backs, so to speak. But they had a record to get out, and we had signed. So what are you going to do? It was all good.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm actually embarrassed right now because I have to be honest. I grew up, you know, and I listened to an awful lot of 60s and 70s music. And for whatever reason, I have never even heard of the Elephant's Memory Band until today.
Wow.
You know, and that's embarrassing. You know, I mean, I listened to all of those guys, you know, back then, the Procol Harums and all of those, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I apologize for that.
The groups of the day. Well, you know, you would have had to start out in the 60s, you know, like 69. Elephant's Memory did the soundtrack for Midnight Cowboy, the Dustin Hoffman movie that got all kinds of Academy Awards in 1969. It was the only X-rated movie ever to win a motion picture award like that. Are you folks familiar with that movie at all?
What was the movie again?
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy.
Midnight Cowboy?
Midnight Cowboy. Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we did the soundtrack for that.
You did?
Yep.
Holy shit.
That's one of the bold records on the wall.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow,
One of the gold records. I like how he put that. One.
Yeah,
I noticed
they accumulate over the years. You know, that's what I do.
Why'd you mute my mic for a second there, Leo? You looking for that scratchy sound?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hearing a clicking, so I wasn't too sure if it was coming
Yeah,
from.
I'm getting the scratching too, but I'm able to hear you guys so far. Let's cross our fingers.
Yeah, sometimes it's because Jeff uses a headset with the mic built in on.
Yeah, but it's not that. Leo
No.
muted me, and it was.
Yeah. Who just muted? Oh,
I mean,
no, it could just be a connection.
Yeah.
That's all. But we'll play through it.
we will. The show will go on.
Pros.
The show will go on. That's right.
It's like having a broken string. You can't stop.
Yeah, that's good analogy.
Right?
Well, you hope like hell that your roadie gets you one that has all the strings. And quick.
All right. So I do have a question for you, Gary.
Good.
Okay. I know you know the answer. I'm just curious as to what you're going to say. There was a quote that I read, and it said, "Life is as long as an elephant's what?"
Life is as long as an elephant's memory.
Very good. I didn't know if you were going to go dirty on us.
Is that are you quoting John Lennon on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
I'm sitting in one of my studios and I'm looking up at the framed letter that quote comes from. I refer to it as the parting of the ways letter. That's where that quote was originated.
Okay.
When John had to finally let us go from Apple and send us on our merry way.
Yep. I read the article. What was said, and I was just. It's an interesting quote, actually. I like it. He was a genius. He was an absolute genius.
There's actually 3 or 4 quotes in that letter, and that are really cool. He was trying so hard to make us feel good, that he had screwed the whole thing up more or less on one end of it, at least. It was really the green card issue.
Right.
For those that don't know, John was getting a lot of flack from the government because he had really extended himself to get involved with raising the voting age to 18, which would have made a huge difference politically. And so the government was really coming down on him and got him on that marijuana bust. And, all those things came to a real problem for him. We couldn't get out and tour because of that.
Right. Well, he was a true pioneer in a lot of ways.
No, you don't have to convince me.
Right.
But
Now,
thanks for coming up with the quote. And, I know you're not an elephant's memory guy per se, but thanks for doing your homework. I appreciate it. It's always good to learn a little bit more about history, right?
Absolutely.
Leo?
Yeah, no, I was going to say. So you brought up, John, with the issue with the government, but some of that fell back on you as well. You, I read that you were your phones were tapped and you were followed by the FBI.
We got so used to it after a while. There was I would see the guys as I was coming into my building on 84th and 1st in New York City, and in those days, it wasn't all digital stuff, like it is today. Then it was actually, they had to have a reel-to-reel tape machine in the basement of your building, So that took a lot of maintaining, You see a lot of people going back and forth with the fedora hats, and it was wild. You heard the click every time you picked up the phone, just like you hear about in the movies. It's all true,
Yeah.
Nixon was president.
Right. Right. Did you say hi, guys? Whenever you picked up,
I knew who they were.
Oh yeah,
they knew. I knew. Everybody knew. You said hello to them. You waved on the way into the building. If you caught them going out for a sandwich, it was pretty hysterical, really. Anyway,
that's funny.
The fun days. Yeah,
The fun days. So, now that Jeff jumped right into the John aspect, how did you become part of what John was doing back then?
Well, first of all, I was really on a Columbia band called Pig Iron. When
Yep.
Elephants first called me, they were kind of falling apart, and I had heard about the Elephants being involved in this political thing in Manhattan, playing NYU, playing at Washington Square Park, doing all these political rallies. And it caught my attention because everything was chronicled in the Village Voice then, You couldn't fart without something being said about it in the Voice. So anyway, one day I'm reading the Voice at breakfast or whatever, and I see Elephant's Memories looking for a bass player. And I went, holy shit. That's what a cool, it's amazing. I was just thinking of them for the last few weeks and seeing all this stuff where they were playing and killing it, by the way. People would just like lose it at their concerts. It was such an energetic band. So anyway, I went down and auditioned. They had a cattle call. About 60 people showed up, and I think they had heard about me as a studio player in town because it seems like I went through the line pretty quick. And to make a long story short, I got the gig, and it was a lot of fun because I was doing jingles all day. Radio and TV jingles as a studio player, and other artists. I was working on some stuff for Paul Simon. I was doing Neil Sedaka gigs, like at the bitter end, and a lot of different artists. I played with an R&B band called Howard Tate that year, so I was pretty much really happening. So it was just I just did it for fun. I didn't even think about it. Like, they just sounded like a great band to go have some fun gigs with. And they were. I had a ball. Not thinking about advancing my career or anything like that, even though they had a history, like I mentioned, with Midnight Cowboy, and they had a couple of hit singles. Mongoose in 1969 was a top 40 hit, like in the top 40s. And they also had a hit that was banned in 1971 called Skyscraper Commando because it had the word dope in it. It got banned for the FCC, and that was a disappointment because we were ready to go out and promote that, and then the FCC banned it. So little did I know the FCC problems were only getting started for me. I was reporting on, but anyway, late in '71. I've been with the Elephants quite a few months, and we did this live radio broadcast out on Long Island called WLIR. It's still there, I think. Good station. And in those days, you went in and played live for like a half an hour, and they'd record it on 7.5 reel-to-reel. And if you were lucky, you got a cassette tape at the end. And that was the case. I recall Billy Joel was the opening act for us that day.
Really?
Pretty cool. And, well, he hadn't really broke out. This is 1971. So,
Right.
December of 1971. And so we did that and got the cassette tape. And lo and behold, a friend of ours, Jerry Rubin, the political activist who was hanging with the band, slipped the tape to John. We didn't even know he was hanging with John at the time. But they had sought each other out, apparently. And so Jerry Rubin gave John Lennon the tape, and they loved it. John and Yoko loved it, thought we had a lot of soul, and we were just what they were looking for. It's all about timing, guys. We were what they were looking for at that time. They had heard about us in the Village Voice. They were totally focused in New York, so they knew about the band. So they sought us out, really, based on our reputation as studio players, and they knew they could present us with material, and we would, just like any studio musician, we would be able to handle it. So they knew that going in. But one night in December of '71, they wanted to come and jam with us, and they just showed up unannounced one night at our studio down in the Village. It was called Magna Graphics. It was on Bedford Street. And they just lived like literally 2 doors around the corner on Bank Street. So that's how convenient and close we were in proximity to the Lennons. So they stopped by, we jammed all night. About 5 o'clock in the morning, John looks at us and says, "I'd like to join your band." And we just like looked at each other and, holy cow, how can that ever happen? You know, what's going on here?
Right. Right. I mean,
we loved it. You know, we
how
all that old rock and roll stuff for him, and he had a ball, and we finally worked it out at the end of the session that morning. Yoko piped up, "Well, if we did a merger with Plastic Ono and Elephant's Memory, it would spell poem," and she was really into it, and then she was already working on the marketing already, you know, all in one night, you know.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. I just had weird visions of plastic elephants.
I mean,
I'm thrilled to be connected with that aspect of Yoko's thing, you know.
So, you know, what I see is circumstance. You know what I mean? Right place, right time, circumstances. But the fact of the matter is that circumstances are developed because you get your face out there. You're out there doing what you need to do. And that's how the opportunity presented itself.
Tried as it sounds, it's you know, that's what you did as a player and as a band. You had to work hard, you know. It was New York, for God's sake, first of all.
Oh yeah.
We were lucky. We got to play Max's and kind of got that place going a little bit. In those days, you wouldn't just play one night somewhere. You played all week, like 6 nights at the same place. So, you know, once you that really tightens up a band in a hurry, I got to tell you.
Yeah, I bet.
I would say so.
6 nights in a row at Max's Kansas City was it was just an amazing experience for us and tightened us up as a unit. And we wanted to get John to come down and jam with us there, but he was a little I don't know why he didn't really want to do that, because he was already thinking about recording those songs that are on sometime in New York City. He was prepping. We didn't realize it, but
Yep.
it wasn't too much later in January we started rehearsing some of those songs.
Wow. I'm blown away right now. I'm blown away by the fact that, you know, that John Lennon just walked over and joined, you know what I mean? Knocked on the door and just kind of.
I don't think he's ever reached out to anybody like that, ever.
Yeah.
I would have to, first of all.
Well, the weird thing.
Like you said, it was the circumstances. We were
Right.
popular in town. We were studio players. He was looking for somebody to replace Clapton and the Jet Set crew, you know, that he took up to Toronto, and just told me that he just was sick of it.
You know, I mean, I take that as that John was very humble, because he said he wanted to join your band. He didn't ask for you guys to be his band.
Yeah, he's quite a tactician, isn't he?
You know,
But,
and that says a lot about his character.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he couldn't have been nicer and humbler about it. I mean, it was just, you couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, we were kind of put on the spot, but it was a good thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, it's a hell of a spot to be put on.
We were trying to get out of our record deal with Metro Media, which we had those hits on. Mongoose, they had a hit on. And we were trying to get out of the contract with them anyway. So we asked John if he thought that would be a problem. And John says, "I don't think that's going to be a problem at all." I mean, you could just tell. You could feel that weight he had behind him, you know.
Right.
There was no way we were not going to get out of our contract, because he wanted us to sign to Apple.
Right.
I had reservations about that right from the get-go, but really we were put in a position of how could we turn it down, really.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
I knew there were going to be problems because, you know, we were basically an unknown band, and So getting an unknown band promoted from Apple, I had a lot of reservations about that from the get-go, whether they could handle something like that. Because Apple, we later found out, actually, Adam Ippolito, the keyboard player in the band, and I went up looking for the promotion department one day at Apple 1680 Broadway. And we got up to the top floors, and we were looking around at all the names on the doors and going down the halls and back and forth. And then we looked at each other in horror and went, they don't have a promotion department. And it was true. They didn't. The Beatles just put out a record, and it went gold, and that was it.
Right.
Right.
What do you need guys doing one-stops for? Do you guys remember, go back in the business long enough to know what a one-stop is?
One stop.
Nope.
Okay.
To me, that was a bus station.
It's like 30 guys sitting in a room each with a phone, and they're calling record stores to make sure that they will take 2 or 3 copies of a record, because once they do that, you can count it on the tabulations for Billboard and Cashbox. So that's called one-stopping.
Wow.
So they didn't even have that, and they didn't need it. So it was pretty tough to promote Elephant's Memory. We got a lot of great press and all, and got out touring with Dad Finger and Billy Preston, which didn't hurt. But as far as a record company, down to the brass tacks of what a record company really does for a young band, I mean, ask James Taylor. He flopped on that. They didn't know what the hell to do with him. I've talked to Joey Mullen from Badfinger about it over and over again, because we've worked together quite a few times. And Badfinger was a nightmare on Apple too. They couldn't wait to get away and get some money with Warner Brothers.
Wow. All right, hey Leo,
Yes.
why don't you hit us with our halftime? All right, hit us with our halftime, and we got a lot more show coming up for you, because I have some more really weird questions, I think, for Gary. Based on my research, there's some shit here that, I really want to know about. Do your thing, Leo.
That was good. And actually, so this will be a couple minutes, Gary. We're going to play our sponsor ad and everything. Do you want to hop out and hop back in and see if that clicking goes away?
I'm good, guys. Thanks. Do whatever you got to do.
Okay. No, I mean, do you want to try to hop out and hop back in and see if the clicking goes away?
Me?
Yes, sir.
No, it's not too bad. Do you have that on your feed?
Well, we should be okay. Let me run that. And here we go. So let me find the right button. So as always, we have awesome sponsors. Deadly Grounds Coffee, little mom and pop shop here in Connecticut. They make the most awesome coffee. I'm drinking it right now. Here's a zombie talking about coffee.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
And Ben, you guys got something going on, don't you?
Okay.
Okay, so episode 1 for Still Toking With is out right now. There's links in the show notes down below or up above. We urge you definitely check it out, but here's the trailer.
If your world was turned upside down, what would you do?
What the fuck are we gonna do now? Get high.
was more fun that way.
Okay, Jeffrey, what are those awesome questions you got?
Well, first I want to say, you can see and follow all of our other sponsors and partners. They are in the show notes, up above, down below, wherever you may be watching. They might be behind you, so watch out. Okay.
Are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
All right, just checking.
Well, the first question I have, for Gary is
the first.
I read.
You've had like 30 questions, so like this is 31.
All right, 31.
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
31. 31. 1973. You played with the Jerry Garcia band on a cruise.
Well, that's a good question. Nobody ever brings that up.
I do.
1973. The Hells Angels were kind of like our bodyguards. They felt like we were the East Coast Grateful Dead, so to speak. So they really got off on hanging at our gigs and harassing people who were not into the band. But they have this cruise every year. Traditionally, back in the day, they would rent the Circle Line, which is a ship that holds about 200 people that goes around the island of Manhattan under the George Washington Bridge. And so they would rent that every year and have this huge party they called the Pirates Ball. And they'd be decked out with all their girlfriends. And this particular year, they had a lot of live music, and this was actually filmed on the cruise. And Elephant's Memory was one of the people playing there. And parts of it became what's called the Hells Angels Forever movie. So later on, after the cruise, I wrote the soundtrack title cut to that. I wrote Angels Forever for them. And that was released back in the day on VHS. It's out there. You can still get it on eBay. And it was basically a documentary of the whole Hells Angels thing up until 1973. It was pretty cool. Has some good music in it.
Okay. How many other bands were involved with that?
Oh, man. 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Willie Nelson was on it. If you haven't seen Willie Nelson was there, and Prairie Dogs or something like that. I forget.
Pure Prairie League.
Jerry Garcia was there, but not the Dead, just Jerry. So.
You're right, just Jerry. Yep.
Yeah. So at one point we were intermingling and playing with each other. And so they have a lot of good musical segments on that documentary. It's pretty good.
Wow.
And I'm proud that I wrote the soundtrack. Made a few bucks.
That's awesome.
Wow. I didn't know the Hells Angels were involved in that. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was their own documentary. They were kind of behind. They probably financed the whole thing themselves, I think. They could afford it, trust me.
Right.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I made a lot of friends. The president of the Hells Angels at that time, who we hung out with and I got to know pretty well, was Sandy Alexander, and he was quite a guy. He's passed on now, but he was the Hells Angel that was in prison and got in the middle of a knife fight with a CIA or FBI undercover guy and saved his life, and they let him out early. And he had won the Golden Gloves in Manhattan. I mean, he was a badass. Wow. That's all the best way I can put it. But the nicest guy you'll ever meet. It was such a
right.
dichotomy. It was just unbelievable, just a sweetheart, and really looked after us, I have to say.
Actually, that's awesome.
You had to hang out on the Lower East Side all the time, because we were down there at the Fillmore East playing all the time, and the headquarters for the Hells Angels was just around the corner. So we did some shows at the Anderson Theater down the Lower East Side, which actually that's where we worked with Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, and wrote a couple of tunes from this great concert we did at the Anderson Theater. It was one of those old wooden theaters like the Fillmore, but even older and even better sounding. It was an amazing place to play. They tore it down now, I'm sure, but that's the history. That would have been 1973. We recorded there with Chuck and Bo. It was a lot of fun. John and Yoko came to sit in the audience that night. They really wanted to see us rock out with Chuck and Bo, so that was quite a night. We were all there under the same roof at that night and playing our little hearts out. And I'll never forget John and Yoko bopping. They were in like the 9th row trying to be inconspicuous,
Yeah,
Like
good
they
luck
could
with
ever
that.
do
I was going to say, I don't think that could ever happen.
Right?
Right. So that's a good question, man.
Yeah, that was a good question, Jeff. I'm actually impressed with you tonight.
Hey, see that?
I mean,
No.
Wow. You've got some really good... Come on, keep going.
Well,
what else
come
you got
on.
for
I
questions?
mean, you got
No,
to
this
remember that.
I know this is your thing, man. This is your...
I love that. I love that older music and the late 60s. That's why I'm horrified that I never heard of you guys. You know what I mean? Because I grew up with that stuff. When I went to college, that's all we listened to. You know what I mean? I had the pleasure of seeing, who the hell is it? ELP and bands like that from the early days. Procol Harum. Procol Harum I saw live with ELP. I mean, come on. I think a lot of these.
Seen either one of them, so good for you. That's
I
great.
was blown away, totally impressed, and the whiter shade of pale and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm embarrassed that I don't know about the Elephant's Memory Band, but I do now. And, I am really looking forward to digging deeper into you.
Be afraid, Gary. Be very afraid.
Carly Simon. I saw that Carly Simon was a part of the Elephants for a while.
Yeah, she had just left the band when I joined in 71.
Oh, you scared her away?
I'm sorry?
Did you scare her away?
I must have. I scared her right into a nice career.
Yes.
Because she broke out that same year. So when she signed and actually got playing. Can you guys still hear me? I see a weird message coming up there.
Oh, yeah. No, we can hear you.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Sorry, I got distracted.
The weird messages are Leo. Leo will pull messages out of the comments.
Once we got working with John and we were recording sometime in New York City, speaking of Carly, it was probably, we got started on the album at the Record Plant East around the end of January into the mid-February time there, right after we did the Mike Douglas show. And Carly would come down, she couldn't wait to come down and hang with John, of course, and her old bandmates. But so that's how I got to meet her, was her coming down to sit in on some of John and Yoko's sessions for some time in New York City. But she had been in the band, I think, 9 months and had recorded some stuff with them, but she was not, and she was kind of sandwiched in between the Midnight Cowboy 69 thing and the Mongoose 1970 thing. Somewhere in there was. So that's the best way I can describe it.
No, that's awesome. And she came out of that and made a name for herself.
She certainly did.
Oh, yeah. And that's just incredible. The people that you've been involved with, I mean, it blows my mind. You know, it's just.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Stevie Wonder, Mick Jagger. I mean,
Yeah, got to know Mick was one of those ones that he really idolized John and didn't wait to get down to this record plant when he was in town and would come by and we would jam. I got to know him a little bit and played pretty darn good guitar, which I was surprised. Didn't really think of Mick as being a guitar player, but he went right about grabbing a spare guitar we had there and played pretty darn good little blues guitar. It was pretty cool.
Really? I didn't know Mick even played a guitar.
Exactly. What are you? That's the way I felt.
Wow, okay.
I hear you.
He just gained a little bit more respect from me.
Well, me as well. I was impressed, I have to say. That's out on bootleg, by the way. You can find a bootleg of the sessions that Nick and John, Yoko, and the Elephants jammed for a few hours one night. We got so stoned we just couldn't take care of business anymore, so we just stopped the regular session and just played and drank and got high, you know. So
and had
that
fun.
was a lot of fun.
Right,
But
and I'll bet you there was.
They never stop those tape machines. They're always running. So
Right. And I'll bet you there was incredible stuff that came out of that.
Yeah, some of it was really good, and some of it was really bad.
If somebody wanted to find those, how would they find those?
I don't know. I'm looking at a copy up on my wall here. I don't remember. It's like one of those bootlegs you get that's in an orange jacket with nothing on it.
Right.
But you buy them in the record store, you know. It's like usually the owner, when you walk in, tells you, "Hey, I've got this new thing, you know. Look in the bin, you know." And there was something written on the label, but I think the jacket was clean. But those are out there, as well as the Willowbrook rehearsals for the one-to-one concert. As I said, we used to play at the Fillmore East a lot. That's where we rehearsed the Madison Square Garden concert, was at the Fillmore East. John had us work out 2 sets a day there for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Really what we were rehearsing for was a world tour, but since that gig came up, you know, we just happened to be in the middle of rehearsing for a world tour, is the way he was looking at it. So the Garden performance was kind of like an afterthought. So it was really all about touring. He had geared us up with all the gear, and we were ready to go. But as I mentioned earlier, it was that green card situation. Just couldn't break it.
Right.
Michael brought up a comment in the chat here. Gary, remember what Chuck said to John when they first met? He gave John a hard time and they had a laugh.
I'm sorry. You were cracking up a little bit there on me. I didn't really hear that too well. Sorry.
Yeah, so Michael Dwyer in the comments says, Gary, remember what Chuck said to John when they first met? He gave John a hard time and they had a laugh.
I'm sorry. That's a great story. I almost forgot about that. I mentioned the Mike Douglas show, which was February 14th. We kicked it off on Mike Douglas in 1972, February 14th. So we were going to be on those days. You were on this Mike Douglas afternoon show. You know, Mike Douglas was a host. He had a band, like a 12-piece band there playing. And he had a guest host for the whole week. You know, there's probably people listening that don't know about Mike Douglas, so I'm trying to explain quickly what's going on. So the first day of the show went on at 4 o'clock live every day for a week. So it was the first day with John, and we were standing we were in the green room, and then we went out and stood in the wings, and we were kind of digging the 12-piece Philadelphia band, you know, playing live in the studio. And every day, Mike, as everybody knows about the show, would come out and sing a song to kick off the show with the live band. So we're sitting there, and it's at 4 o'clock. We're ready to go, and all of a sudden the band picks up, and Mike Douglas sings Michelle. And John hit the ceiling. He was so pissed. He just said, looked at me and went, "Fucking hell." He was not digging it at all. They didn't really do much research. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, it was known as the Paul song. Okay, John wrote the middle eight. That's not the point. But everybody knew in '72 that was so well known as Michelle as the Paul song. It was really for the first thing for Mike to sing. I'm trying to explain it away here for him, but it was just not cool for John and Yoko at all that he did that.
That's awesome, actually.
That's comical.
I did watch one of the episodes of the Mike Douglas show doing my research, and you know, even though it's from the '70s, a lot of people should check it out. It's a variety show. There's, you know, obviously musicians, interviews, and comedian acts. You know, it was the episode I saw was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
where can they find that?
It wasn't quite gone yet. You know, it was kind of like had the Ed Sullivan thing happening there a little bit with the jugglers and all kind of wild stuff, comedians. It was a wild format, really. It was hard to pull off. I'll tell you that I give them credit down there in Philly for that's a tough thing to pull off live with all that going on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're looking for it, you can find them on YouTube. Looks like that's where I watched one episode.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
The other funny thing that happened on the Mike Douglas show was, as you were referring to, was when Chuck Berry came in for the first day. He was late as usual. He came into the green room and looked right at John and said, "Where are my royalties?" With the really straight face. And John, for a second, I mean, he just caught him off guard, and John just didn't know what to do. He was speechless. And he had this look on his face of pure terror. And Chuck held him with that for about 3 or 4 seconds. It felt like 10 minutes. And then Chuck kind of busted out laughing and extended his hand, and they went over and hugged. And it was like old home week right away, you know. But he had John gone there for a couple of minutes because, you know, Chuck Berry didn't become a millionaire until somewhere around 1980. I mean, it was ridiculous how much he got ripped off in the 50s and 60s. So that was a pretty valid complaint, really, when you think about it. There would definitely had to be some royalties out there that I'm sure he didn't get, you know, on the Beatle covers and this and that, you know. So, but anyway, it was a good sport about it. John hanging too much, and they had a lot of fun. You know, John really idolized him. He was nervous around Chuck. That was one of his main idols, and he really wanted to do good by Chuck. And God bless him, he tried, but of course Chuck ended up playing all the keys, all the songs in the wrong keys, and throwing John a solo on live TV, and he never told John that he was going to try to get him to play a solo, and a lot of really sneaky stuff. And that's what Chuck was all about in those days. You know, it was like he played this little game called Stump the Band. You know, I call it.
He liked to fuck with people.
Exactly.
I think that's the first F-bomb of the show.
Nope. Gary beat you to it 10 minutes ago.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I learned so much, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to have to look up now. You know, seriously, it's you know, I can't believe that I missed some of this stuff.
Well,
you know,
but young, guys, you know, cut yourself some slack. You know.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, you know, it was a little before my time, but not that long.
Well, not that it was. I mean, it was before my time. Like I said, I was born in '72, but the music has been around for generations.
Yes,
and generations and generations, and even today, in 2021, I guess. I lost a year because of this pandemic thing. the music that you were so heavily a part of is still everywhere. It hasn't faded. It wasn't a one-hit wonder. Do you know what I mean? And it puts you into a legendary status. And I was reading some show notes. You were actually inducted into the Pittsburgh Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was 2014. Not too long ago. That was an
Right.
honor. Always great to be, recognized by your hometown guys. So it was great. I was thrilled.
That's awesome.
No.
You know.
So,
Thanks for
what are
mentioning
you currently working on, and what are your plans?
I'd just like to have another gig.
I just want to have a
Just like
gig.
for things to be I just want a gig. That's all I'm asking for. Just to go out and play again. It's been too long. This has been too crazy. Too much cooped up, and I still play and keep my chops up. But you didn't want to be stupid. My band hasn't played in over a year and 3 months now, so it's wild.
Right.
Wow. Now,
It'd be nice to get back to some students coming again. That would be nice.
right?
I haven't been doing the teaching online thing. Just as it's really hard for bass. You can't feel that or hear the frequencies right on the internet. It's just crazy to try to teach bass. Maybe some guys are doing it and doing it well, but I just didn't really feel like I wanted to go there. But it would be nice to get back to teaching and seeing some of my students again as well.
So over the past year with No Time to Play, what have you been doing with your spare time?
Not a lot.
That's an honest answer, yeah.
Just haven't been really doing a lot, guys. I got to tell you, a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
And that's hard, especially for somebody like you.
Yeah, well,
it's got to
that's
be.
what I do. I play. That's what you do. You're geared up.
Right.
4 o'clock comes, you get yourself awake and stick yourself in the car and get your gear together and go set up and play for 4 hours and break it all down and come home. That's what you do.
Right.
There has been none of that. So I can't tell you how weird it is for a full-time musician playing out every night musician to do nothing. It's really, really not good.
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. I mean, I can't wait for shows to come back. I'm itching. I need a live show. I need that interaction. I need to be shoulder to shoulder with the guy next to me screaming, It's just, you got to have it.
Let's hope we're on our way. I don't know whether you guys got any shots yet or not. Or you're probably not old enough to get shots yet, right?
I'm old enough.
I got my first one.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all vaccinated up and ready to go. It's just a matter of the venues,
Yeah.
Wanting to get at least the rooms that I've been playing. It's just a matter of time till they get back to normal or some kind of normalcy.
Right.
Let's hope it happens soon.
Yeah, definitely. And, if we're ever out in your area, I would love to try and hook up with you. Meet you in
That would be
person,
great,
shake
Ben.
your hand.
Oh, anytime, Ben. We're way out here, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to be traveling to
Cornwall?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania, yeah.
We're supposed to be traveling out to Pennsylvania and Virginia, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're going to be kind of down in that area of the woods.
August, September.
Yep. Hopefully.
Yep.
Knock on wood. Ouch.
It's beautiful out here.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, literally the Poconos from us is 5 hours. It's a 5-hour drive.
Yeah,
That's not too bad.
ways.
That's not. Well, we do 3.5 hours
Just to go to the studio with Bill.
Once a month for a week, 3.5 hour drive down, 3.5 hour drive back while we're filming. So, because we actually filmed down in Cornwall, New York. So right down near Poughkeepsie.
Hudson Valley.
Yeah, Hudson Valley. So a 5 hour ride isn't that bad. It's almost like driving to Jeff's place in Maine, just add a half hour.
Well, I've been doing that for 50 years. So
Right.
Excellent.
Got any more questions going over there, Leo? You got anything you want to say?
I think I got my questions out of the way.
There were good questions. Yeah.
I was almost impressed.
Almost.
Oh, I didn't say I was talking about Leo, not you.
Well,
almost.
Well, sorry.
I was almost impressed with Leo. I was very impressed with your questions, Jeff. I had a bunch of questions, but yours were better.
No, they were. Well, they were different. I was hoping for a different answer on the, as long as an elephant's thing, but because I've seen the video. Birds do it, bees do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, excellent. There's just Michael's right. There's way too much. I spent a good hour and a half looking you up, and what saddened me was that I recognized so many of the people that you have worked with. But yet I had never even heard your name before. You know what I mean? And that's that's unjust. In my opinion, you deserve better than that.
Well, they always the life of a studio musician.
Well, I think it's more the life of like a bass player or like the rhythm guitarist, because it's usually when somebody recognizes a band, it's all about the front man, or if you're really, really good, the drummer. The bass players and rhythm guitarists, for some reason, they always get overlooked, but they shouldn't. Ever.
The story of my life, yeah.
Well, the story of your life is actually amazing. It's an amazing story.
Thank you, guys. It's always good to I could come up with some decent answers to your questions, I hope.
Well, we're just glad that you were willing to come on and chat with us tonight, and hopefully our viewers that were on tonight, our future viewers and our listeners that are going to listen to this later on, learn more about you, and the amazing things that you've accomplished over many years.
50.
I was being polite.
Half a century.
Yeah, it's hard to believe for me too. Very fortunate.
You're a true inspiration, my friend. A true inspiration. And I'll be, looking you up because I want to know more about your music. I need to know more about the Elephants. Okay, because I'm really, really upset that I don't know anything about that. I said that before. I pride myself on knowing about late 60s, early 70s music. So that's...
It was kind of the end of the 70s, but I guess it's kind of in your wheelhouse. So
it should be in my wheelhouse.
Your horizons a little there, that's all.
Well, I'm going to make it part of my wheelhouse.
So we had a couple questions come in. Michael wanted to know what happened when you met John for the first time.
Well, I think I covered that earlier, but I'm not sure what they're meaning specifically. But we jammed all night. That was the gist of it. And playing all those old songs, all the Chuck Berry songs, and Dizzy Miss Lizzie, and I think the only Beatles song we ever really played with John out was Come Together. We did that at the Garden, but that night that we jammed, we did a lot of the old stuff that we could come up with on the spot, at least,
Right.
Some of those early Beatles songs, I would love to have played with them that first night, but we just didn't know the chord changes. They were they were some of them were pretty involved. You just
Yeah.
didn't like exactly grab them off the top of your head. So it was simpler stuff, like I said, Dizziness with but we talked a lot about the business and what also when we took a little break, we would talk about what's going on with him and Apple, and he was hopefully trying to get that all finalized, and he was trying to get the final solution, as he put it. That was in his words, which was tremendously complicated, as everyone knows.
Wow.
And he also asks, did you also meet George? He asks because he had so much going on in the early 70s.
I did not meet George, and I've never met Paul. Ringo briefly was backstage at the David Letterman show one day, and briefly Clapton and Ringo were there. I think he realized who I was, but I'm not sure. It was one of those crazy things backstage. You never really know what's going on. But I was at least in the same room with Ringo. But no, I never really formally met Paul or George. That would have been a thrill. I kind of feel like Paul was around, though, because we'd be recording it. You hear about how they're at each other's throats and everything. This is one of the stories I tell, is that you'd read in the Village Voice that afternoon that they were squabbling like cats and dogs. And then we'd go to the record plant that night at 7 o'clock for our evening session. And Paul would call in on the phone from Scotland, and they would yuck it up for like an hour and a half on the phone together. So didn't sound like they were doing too much feuding to me.
No, I think they loved each other, honestly.
Sounded like a couple of brothers talking to me.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I have a brother, and we get going pretty good on the phone sometimes. And it sounded like one of those deals to me. So much for the Village Voice on that one.
Right. You can't always believe what they tell you.
No, amen.
So, well, very good, man.
Yeah.
This has been a fantastic show. I learned a lot. I got more I got to learn. I feel like there's a piece of me that is missing. I really do. No, from the history of music. So I'm going to find that little piece and I'm going to make it a part of me. And thank you very much for that. It means a lot. That really, really means a lot.
The music that we did with John sometime in New York City, all of the subject matter is just as relevant today as it was in 1972. I mean, when you go through each song, it's just amazing, the subject matter. We're still talking about legalizing pot, and we had John Sinclair song, John Sinclair, who had been busted for 2 joints or whatever.
Right.
Attica State police violence, forget it. We were doing songs like that in 1972. All that stuff is more relevant today, actually, than it was then.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Wow.
All
right. So on that note, Leo,
do your thing.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. There's a bunch of information shown us down below or up above, depending on where you're watching or listening to us. For me, you can just Google Leo Pond. You find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. I'm not going to say which is which, but I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. You can head on over to thedorkening.com for more information. And with wrapping things up, the last question here, Gary, and we can tie this into you wrapping up, is Michael wants to know what means most to you as a teacher and artist today, and what are your plans moving forward? And last question is, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
Well, I have a Gary Van Scyok fan page. They can all get me on that, and I still have a website. Remember those? GaryVanScyok.com. And there's a store on there of a lot of stuff that we sell, like T-shirts and that, as all stores have, buttons. And I have an album that I recorded in 2015 called Pop Goes the Elephant. That's available on there. So just still trying to get back to normal with the the gigging situation, and you can't even really record these days. So the studios aren't doing much either. So I'd just like to see the music business get somehow get back to some kind of normalcy. That would be nice. But they can contact me on those two, the fan page and the website, and my album is available on there, and hopefully we'll be getting into doing more of the same stuff, recording and playing out and teaching.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll get there. We're almost there. Just need to hold out a little bit longer. Jeffrey.
Yeah, you don't want to follow me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. Stilltoken.com. That's our website. All our information is right there. Token with the Dead on Facebook. You can send a message. I probably won't answer it. Well, I might. It depends on if you're nice or not. But I have a lot of fun. Honestly, I do like fucking with people. So, be prepared for that. Don't ever Google me though, because it's probably half true. I don't know. It's probably not even me. There's an awful lot of me's out there. I don't think I have multiple personalities. I might. I don't know. Did I start a bunch of different pages?
What the fuck?
Anyway, Gary, great show. I loved it. And follow us along. Still Token with all our previous episodes. You can find right on our website, stilltoken.com. Send me a friend request. I'll probably ignore it, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Dude, that was like the longest fucking outro that you've ever done.
Okay.
Oh, it's my turn. So, like Jeff said, we're on all social media platforms. You can find us everywhere. Past shows, like he said, are on the website. They're also on all the Facebook pages that we run on, all the YouTube channels we run on. You can find that in the show notes, wherever Leo fucking put them this time. But to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do every day so people like us can come up here and do what we do every day. We'll see you next week. We're out of here. Be safe.
Peace out. Thank you.
Good night. Good meeting you guys.
Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on.